Speaking of corrupt politicians, we should know recently that these people are not our moral superiors. We should not be fans of them. Have to remind people, just because you think you're voting for someone doesn't mean the other guy's bad. It doesn't mean the person you're voting for is good. They're usually both really evil, okay? And novels and take Trump, for example. He's not a model of midos, let's just say. I thought a telling incident was a few months ago. I should have mentioned it at the time. Someone sent me on the same news day, the blue team, which controls the presidency in America, had a Gila Rios party at the White House. A Gila Rios party with all sorts of terrible perversions going on there.
Oh
And that's
God.
what they were celebrating. Yeah, I don't know what it called, but you could see it was covered and stuff like that. It was covered in the media. So that was disgusting. So all the usual people and the cronies, blue team celebrates Gila Rios. That is their thing. At the same time, basically, red team, Trump and Joe Rogan and the rest of those people were at a Shvichas Damim party. Okay, they're having a Shvichas Damim party because that's their Avera. Yeah.
Oh, wars?
What?
Wars?
No, they were at a UFC.
Oh.
Okay, mixed martial arts as they call it, which is basically Shvichas Damim. There's no heter for two goyim or two Jews or anybody to hit each other senselessly just for money. Okay, it's a grave crime. Okay, so they were at their Shvichas Damim party while the blue team was having a Gila Rios party.
I don't think it's about the same thing though. They're not killing each other UFC. They actually are killing each other.
They're doing Shvichas Damim and they're getting really hurt. If they're not close, they're just getting this close. By the way, many people in the so-called UFC, which is not a sport, football is barely a sport, by the way, with all the gruesome injuries and the Shvichas Damim going on in the crowd. It is basically just short of what the Romans were doing in the gladiatorial things, like the Chazal. Steinsaltz points this out, where in Gittin it talks about the person who sells himself into slavery. What's worse than selling oneself into slavery? Selling oneself into slavery to non-Jews. What's worse than selling oneself into slavery to non-Jews? Selling oneself into slavery to lo darim or ludim. What is the girsa there? So Rashi says ochle adam. Okay, cannibals. A person sold himself to cannibals. That's more pikuach nefesh than any situation being sold to slavery. At least a person sold into slavery, abroad to non-Jews. They want to keep him alive because they just invested in him, so they're going to use him for slave labor. They're not there to kill him. Whereas the cannibals are maybe, buying him for lunch. So that's a problem. That's how Rashi has it. But Steinsaltz points out, no, it might be gladiators. He's sold himself to compete in the gladiatorial games. Okay.
Ludim is also used as a code word that Rish Lakish was from there.
Yeah. So and then it talks about Reish Lakish, and it says apparently Reish Lakish was involved in these gladiatorial matches, if I'm pronouncing the word correctly. What are gladiators? Why is it weird? If a person joins, let's say, the gladiator team, he's basically taking his life into his own hands. Like, yeah, I'll compete in the game. He's likely going to get himself killed. There's certain professions which aren't really smart. You don't have a long life expectancy, and that says how Reish Lakish was, dealt with these people before he had his big Baal Tshuva moment. It was one of them. Okay, so we should keep in mind that the usual political classes are not our friends, are not our role models, and it bewilders me that there's some people who are cheerleading either side of that. Whatever that color war in America. Okay, it's all against you. None of it is pro you. Okay, as a Jew who's trying to keep the Torah.